I am 5 weeks postpartum and I finally have some time to chat about my birth story. So before I begin, I want to say this is probably going to be a few parts because, well, I want to go eat. So while she's sleeping, I figured I'd get started, but then I'm going to eat and maybe I'll come back to this later today or tomorrow. We'll see. But anyway, I always wanted to have a home birth. I knew way before even becoming pregnant that I wanted to give birth at home. I believe I told my husband before we even got married that that's something that I wanted to do. And I'm grateful that he was on board. When I first mentioned it to him, he was like, yeah, let's do that. So a home birth was something that I always had in mind to do. And I'm grateful that I was able to do that. It was a wonderful experience. It was crazy. Oh my goodness, crazy. And I'll get into that. But it was a beautiful experience. It was a positive birth because I was able to birth at home. That was my goal, to give birth in the comfort of our own house. I had a few reasons why I wanted to not go to the hospital to give birth. One being, the stats with Black women in the hospital settings. I just did not want to be a part of that. I wanted to be in our own space. I didn't want the beeping of the machines, the busyness of the hospital setting. And I understand some people, that doesn't faze them, but I knew from my experience that's not what I wanted. Anyway, I gave birth at 35 years old and I'm 36 now. And technically that's a geriatric pregnancy. And that's something that I joked around a lot about while pregnant, because how am I 35 and geriatric? Like, what? How? But anyway, I knew that I had to be in good health to be able to have a home birth. So I stopped drinking like a month before we planned to conceive. And I started taking prenatal vitamins a few months before that. I was staying pretty active. Of course, I teach yoga and I practice yoga at home on my own. So I was just trying to be as healthy and happy as possible to create a good environment for the baby to begin to grow. So as I said before, we planned to have this baby. My husband's birthday is in January and my birthday is in March. So we were like, oh, we could have her in February. So we planned to have her in February, or we thought. Our initial due date was February 15th. And that was based off of my missed period. Or my last period, I should say. So February 15th is what the estimated due date was. And then as the pregnancy went on, we got the first ultrasound and the due date was February 22nd. So we were like, oh, that'd be cool. 2-2. That'd be so dope. But she had other plans. She knew when her birthday was gonna be and she wanted to surprise us. So as the due date, got closer, I understood that first-time moms often go past their due date. So I was like, well, she may come on February 15th, she may come on February 22nd, but like whenever she decides to come, I'm fine with it as long as she's healthy, as long as, labor and delivery goes the way it needs to, I'm good. But yeah, those two due dates came and went and she was not here yet. So we were like, okay, so what now? So I was technically past my due date because she was born on March 5th. So I was quite a bit past the due date. I actually have not, I was past the due date, okay? And starting to get a little anxious because everyone who was reaching out to me was like, hey, is baby here yet? Is baby here yet? That was mostly what everybody was reaching out to me asking. And I'm like, I will let you know when the baby comes. And people just reaching out just to see if the baby's here yet you're kind of stressing me out because, no, she's not here yet. But it's okay. I understand everybody was just excited, as was I, but I was also getting anxious as the days went on because I was like beginning to feel very heavy. It was hard to walk at the last few days of pregnancy. Like, it was a lot. She was very heavy and weighing down on my pelvis. It was a lot of weight. The rest of the pregnancy was amazing. I will say I definitely enjoyed all of pregnancy. Those last couple of days, those were rough, but those were just days compared to the rest of the months of being pregnant that I loved, There's a part 3 to follow. So we were getting close to 42 weeks and I was in labor, but not active labor. I was in labor for a couple of days. I was dilated. Things were beginning. I was having very strong contractions, but they were not consistent. So anytime I started to get contractions, I got excited because I was like, okay, we're about to do this. It's about to happen. But then they would dissipate. So that was happening for several days. So that was a lot. On top of people reaching out constantly and asking if the baby was here yet. I was like trying to just stay calm, stay cool. But it was a lot. It was a lot. But the midwife suggested drinking something called the midwife's brew, which if you haven't heard of it, you can look it up and see what the ingredients are. But one of the main ingredients is castor oil, but it's blended with some other things because castor oil alone can be a bit much to get labor started. It can be kind of violent. So the midwife's brew, midwife's blend, has some other ingredients as well to help to put you into active labor. So I drank that. My husband went and got the ingredients. We mixed it up, blended it in the blender. I thought it was going to be disgusting, but it was actually pretty good. And I think I was just excited to get things going. So I drank that and I began to have contractions that were more consistent. So I started getting excited because it's like, all right, we're doing this. This is happening. But then again, they started to dissipate. So she recommended doing the Miles circuit, which if you've heard of that before, or if you've not heard of it, it's a few different positions to put yourself in. Some of them are like movements to do, and some of them are just kind of like poses, almost yoga poses, to sit in or lay in to get your body to go into active labor. So I was doing that and it seemed like it was beginning to work, but it wasn't, not the way that we thought it would. All right, I'm back. So where did I leave off? We were doing lots of walking, trying to get labor going. All of the things that people recommend doing, including making love. We were doing all of it. So people were suggesting things and we're like, yeah, we did that. We're trying, we're working on it here. The baby just has her own schedule that she's on. So, yeah, but we were trying to get things flowing. One thing I really appreciated was that the midwife was like, just relax your mind, I don't want you worrying about the possibility of going to the hospital. That's not gonna happen. I want you to just relax and know that she's gonna come very soon. And I was like, thank you. Like, I needed that reassurance because my husband, he of course was super reassuring that, the baby's gonna come when she's supposed to, it's gonna be fine. But we were both also kind of like, all right, now, when is she coming? When? So anyway, we had dinner. After we had dinner Friday night, my husband, I think I took a shower. Yeah, I went in the shower, and when I came out, my husband had my, he got me these lights a couple of years ago for taking photos. So he set up the lights and we had the birthing pool in the living room, and he was like, let's take some pictures. Like, you know, this is the last couple of days of you having the baby in your belly. I think we should take some photos. And I was like, oh wow, okay, yeah. So we took pictures in the living room and in the baby's room. And it was a really sweet time because it was like, it just took my mind off of me feeling anxious about the baby, you know, coming. We went to sleep that night, and around 2 a.m. I started having contractions. And I was waiting for them to start to die down because that's what was happening a lot, but that wasn't happening. I wasn't able to sleep through it. I wasn't able to breathe through it as much as I was able to before. They were getting closer together and they were getting more intense. So I was like, oh, okay, this is happening. We're about to do this. She's coming. So for about an hour, maybe 2 hours, I can't remember exactly how long, but I didn't wake up my husband. I was listening to some birth affirmations, labor and delivery affirmations, just playing them and listening and trying to like breathe for a while, because I was like, once I wake him up, I know he's not gonna be able to go back to sleep. I might be able to doze back off in between if things start to dissipate, but I know he's not gonna go back to sleep. So let me wait. But then they started getting more and more intense. So I was like, okay, let me wake him up and let him know this is progressing. So he called the midwife and he let our moms know, because our moms were gonna come over for the home birth. So he let them know what was going on, and he let the midwife know. We got out of the bed after a while because I was just laying there trying to rest, because I know that's one thing they always say, like, you know, when you're in early labor, like, try to rest for as much as you can because you're gonna need that energy later on when you're pushing. So try to rest if you can. So I was trying to lay in bed, but I just couldn't. It was becoming more and more uncomfortable to lay in the bed. So I got on the birth ball. He was giving me counter pressure on my back, which was amazing. I was watching a lot of YouTube videos while I was pregnant. Just throughout the pregnancy, I was watching tons of YouTube videos about, you know, different positions to get into during labor, ways that your birthing partner or husband, ways that they can help you. So I watched a few videos about counter pressure and sent them to him, and he watched them and studied it and was like, cool, I know what to do. So he was providing amazing counter pressure. Anytime I had a contraction, I would let him know, and he would press on my back with his hands or with his fists, depending on like what I needed. I would tell him, okay, a little bit harder, okay, a little bit softer, a little bit lower, and he would press, and we did this for hours. Oh my goodness. So like I said, I'm sitting on the birthing ball. Hours go by and I'm still on the birthing ball, and the midwife came and she checked my my blood pressure, and she checked the baby's pulse, just wanted to make sure everything was good. And I'm still on the birth ball. Actually, before she came, as I said, I was on the ball for a while, and my husband was like, you should eat something. Let me get you some toast, because you've been, you know, you need some energy. Let me get you something to eat and drink. He gave me a piece of toast and some apple juice. So it took me so long to eat that piece of toast. I didn't even eat the whole thing. I remember putting it back on my dresser, because I ate a few pieces and I was like, I can't do this right now. So I put it on the dresser, and I'm on the birth ball and I'm leaning, and I felt like I was gonna throw up. And I was like, I think I'm gonna throw up. And as quickly as I said it, I couldn't even get up to like go to the bathroom, which was in our bedroom. We're in the bedroom, bathroom's not far, but I couldn't make it there. I just threw up on the floor, and I got excited because I was like, oh, again, back to all the YouTube videos I've watched. I've heard people say that, you know, when you're in active labor, a lot of times you will either have diarrhea or you'll vomit. And that means we're making progress. This is happening. Because I still wasn't too sure. I was like, I've had a couple of false alarms. This may not be it. But once I vomited, I was like, oh, this is really, really happening. Because the contractions weren't enough, I guess, to tell me that this was really happening. So the midwife came, she checked my vitals, she checked the baby, everything was good. And they started to fill up the tub, the birthing pool in the living room, so that I can labor in there for a while. And at this point, I don't know what time it was. I had my playlist playing. I had two different push playlists. One was upbeat and one was like slow, mellow music. And I had the slow, mellow music playing. And it was just calm, relaxing. But I don't know like the time that it was at the point that I got into the birthing pool. Don't know what time of day it was. I know it was morning, but I don't know like what part of the morning we were in. But that's neither here nor there. She began to, coach me to let me know like, hey, if you started to feel contractions, like if you're feeling ready to start pushing, let's go ahead and start doing that, because you're dilated enough. But I wasn't feeling like it was time to push yet. What I really wanted to do was let my body push for me, because I've heard a lot of women say they get to a point in labor where they're not pushing, their body is pushing the baby out for them. And I was like, I want to do that. But again, this baby had other plans. She wasn't about that life. She had to be pushed out, and that's okay. After a while of being in the birth pool, we decided to go back to the room and get back on the yoga ball, the birth ball, for a while, and labor there in the room for a while. I think at this point I don't know what time it was, but I knew that I was getting, I was starting to get tired at this point. And there were 3 midwives in here, two midwives and 1 midwife student, and our moms were here, and we had a photographer. I had a friend here taking photos for us. And after sitting in the birthing pool, everyone was like really supportive and like amazing. Nobody was annoying me or anything, but I knew I was going to get to a point in labor, like before even going into labor, I knew I was going to get to a point where I didn't want to hear anyone's voice but my husband's. So we went into the room, and I was like, I'm going to close the doors. We're just going to be in here. And they were like, yeah, that's fine. No worries. I just didn't want to hear anybody but him. And I was like, talk to me, like encourage me, tell me good things, tell me I'm going to make it. Because I was starting to just get tired. I was very worn out, and I knew I still had quite a ways to go. My water had not broken, but I also knew that not everybody experiences that. I know that some women, their water will break early on in labor. Some it'll break right before the baby comes. Some the water has to be broken. So I wasn't sure where I stood, but I was like, I think we still have a little ways to go because my water hasn't broken yet. But we're sitting in the room, and he's speaking positive things over me, giving me the counter pressure that I needed. The midwife came in to check on me, and I think at this point I was laying on the side of the bed, and a few minutes after she left the room, my water broke, and I was so excited because I was like, okay, now we're making moves. We're about to have this baby. She's coming right now. Like any minute she'll be here. And little did I know we still had hours to go. Hours. Oh my goodness. I didn't know it was going to be that long. I've heard people say, birth is a marathon. But I didn't realize it was like that kind of marathon. Like, no, it's a real marathon. For real. All right, I'm gonna try to speed this up. Otherwise, it's gonna be like 50 parts. I know there's gonna be a lot of things that I'm gonna have to just leave out. And if people ask, then I will fill them in. But I don't want to have this story going too much longer. But water broke. I still had hours left. We came back out into the living room, got back in the birthing pool, and the midwife said, okay, you know, when you have contractions now, instead of just breathing through it, we're gonna push when you start to have these contractions. And I was like, okay, yes, all right. Again, time-wise, I'm not sure how long I was out here in the birthing pool pushing through the contractions, but it got to a point where they were like, okay, let's go back to the room. Let's try to push in a different position. So I was in the bed on my side. I was on my knees at one point with, I'm not sure what kind of, they had some inflatable, maybe it wasn't even inflatable. There was some kind of something that I was leaning over. It wasn't the birth ball, but it was like if I find a picture of it, well, I do have a picture of it, but I'm kind of exposed in that photo. I'll post it if possible to show you what I'm talking about. But I was leaning over that. At one point, it was like a squat stool. So I was leaning on that at one point. Another time I was sitting on it. Anyway, we were in different positions trying to get this baby out. And I had to get a lot of assistance from the midwives. They had to help me to get this baby out. There was lots of pulling and assisting that they did. And it was very up close and personal. And I was grateful that I surprisingly did not have any tears after that, because when I noticed that's what they were doing with the oil that we had, I think we used coconut oil. We had olive oil and coconut oil. Anyway, when I realized that they were helping me, the main midwife, she was helping me. In my mind, I was okay, I'm gonna have some tearing and it's okay. But at the end of the night, once baby came and she told me I didn't have any tears, I was like, really? I was shocked. So we're in the room and I'm pushing. I feel like I was crying at one point, I think. Maybe. Was I crying? I feel like I was. It started getting cloudy, so I needed to turn on the light, which I probably should have had it on this whole time. But anyway. If I wasn't crying, I know for a fact I was just getting weak. I was whimpering. I was moaning, groaning, kind of like just getting very fatigued from all the pushing, all the different positions. It was a really long day. Yes, it was a long day. So again, all these different positions, and not at no point did any of the midwives say anything to me that made me feel like discouraged or feel like my body wasn't doing what it was supposed to. They were so supportive, so encouraging. Same with my husband and my mom. Like, everybody was so encouraging, and they're like, Rose, you're doing this, you're doing amazing, great job, you're almost there. And I was like, how much longer though? How much longer? But everybody was so encouraging, and I had an amazing team with me. And I think that's one thing that meant the world to me, to have people who were only positive. That's what I needed in that time. That was everything. So we got to a point where the midwife was like, I need you to push with like everything in you. I know you've been pushing, but like it's time to push with everything in you. Like let that mama bear out. Like growl if you need to. You know, do whatever you have to. Just like push with all your might. And I was like, I've been pushing. Like, what do you want me to do? But something came over me because as I talk about this story with my husband and my mom, they've both mentioned that I at one point was like, okay, let's do this. I'm doing this. I'm gonna do this. And I don't remember saying that at all. Like I blacked out, I guess. I don't know. I don't remember saying that at all. And at that point, something kicked up and I started pushing harder with more. And whew, my goodness, it got intense, very intense. Wow. So my husband was in front of me and I'm on the bed. I think I was on my knees. Yeah, I was on my knees and I was pushing against him and he was pressing back because I needed something to like support me. My mom was there at one point and I was like pushing my mom off of the bed and I didn't realize I was pushing her off. So she switched spots with my husband and he was able to like brace a bit more, way more than my mom. And wow, I'm pushing and they're like, okay, we're seeing her head. Oh my goodness, she has so much hair. Rosemary, you're almost there. She's coming out. She's on her way. Her hair, we see how much, oh my goodness, look at all this hair. So I'm like, okay, I'm crowning at this point. And when I talk about this part of the story with my husband, he says he went down there to see, and he was like, it was just a piece of her hair that he was seeing. He was like, I went down there and I looked and I was like, that's it. I thought it was gonna be a bit more. I thought we were further along than this, but we were getting there. We were getting there. Still pushing with all my might. I did begin to feel the ring of fire as she was crowning, as her head was coming out more. It was burning like nothing I've ever experienced before. And I was like, it burns! Oh my gosh! And they're like, it's her head. You got it. It's coming out. Her head is coming out. She's right here. And as her head came out and that burning feeling, whew, my goodness, baby girl, that burn. They told me to pause. They were like, okay, wait for a minute, hold on. And I didn't know until, I don't know, the next day, I think. My husband told me the next day, I believe. The umbilical cord was actually wrapped around her neck and they were like giving it some slack, loosening it from around her neck so that when I pushed again, it didn't tighten around her. So they're like, hold on, wait, don't push yet. And I was like, I have to push. And they're like, okay, go ahead, push now. And at this point, that's when my body was finally pushing on its own. I couldn't stop. I was like, I have to push. Like I couldn't keep it in at that point. They were like, okay, go ahead. And her shoulders came out and I felt so much relief at that point when her shoulders came out and I could feel them coming out of me. That point was my favorite part of birth, feeling her shoulders come out because it felt the most productive of the whole day. And I knew we were almost done at that point. So they were like, here she is, just a couple more pushes, get the rest of her out. And yeah, did you hear that? I love her. All right, so I pushed out her shoulders, a couple more pushes and got the rest of her out, and everything happened like super fast after that. Like after her shoulders, well, I'll say after her head came out and I was like, I have to push. Everything happened very fast after that. And yeah, mama. So they handed her to me. I think they handed her right to me. As soon as she came out, they put her on my chest and they're like, here's your baby. And I remember kissing her and I remember them taking her back for a moment and like rubbing her back or her chest. They were rubbing and she let out a big cry and I was like, that is her. And then they handed her back to me and she let out a big cry. what was really funny when she first, when they first put her on my chest, she like put her hands over her eyes because it was kind of bright in the room. And it's really funny because my husband was like, this is definitely your daughter, because that's how I am in the morning. I don't like bright lights in the morning, and when he's getting ready for work, I'll cover my eyes if he turns the light on. Oh, mama, you okay? She's starting to wake up again, but it's okay. We've got through most of this story. This is basically the end. I had to birth the placenta. Hey, mama, can I turn your head this way? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Oh. So I'm sitting in the bed holding her, and they're like, are you feeling contractions still? And I was like, yes, I am. And they're like, okay, on one of these next contractions that you're feeling, go ahead and push, kind of like you would push to get her out, because that's the placenta. And I just had nothing left in me. I'm pushing, and I was like, I'm trying, I can't, like nothing is happening. And they're like, we know you're tired, like try again. And I tried again, and I could not push the placenta out. So the midwife student said, what we're gonna have you do is stand on the side of the bed, and I'm gonna have you squat over this. We had a glass bowl prepared to hold the placenta, because I was doing the placenta encapsulation. So she was like, I'm gonna have you just squat over this bowl like you're gonna pee, and the placenta will come out. And I was like, okay. And she was like, and don't look down, just like look straight ahead. And I was like, all right. You know, I looked down, I had to see it. I heard it come out, I heard it plop into the bowl, and I was like, I wanna see. So that was really cool. I didn't pass out or anything. So I believe she told me not to look down because my equilibrium may have been a bit off after, you know, giving birth. They didn't want me to pass out. So yeah, I was fine though. I looked down just out of curiosity, and someone's ready to nurse. But being able to be in my own bed during that time, being able to like lay there and rest in our bed, be able to try to go to sleep afterwards. I was so like, adrenaline was, yeah, I wasn't able to go right to sleep that night. I stayed up looking at her most of the night. I probably slept for like 10 minutes, but okay, maybe an hour. But being able to be home, being able to, you know, go use the bathroom. Look at this baby, oh my goodness. Being able to, you know, get up and go use my own bathroom. Being able to just feel comfortable because I'm home. Even as uncomfortable as I was, I had that comfort of being home, and I'm grateful for that. But everything went the way that it was supposed to. I just imagined something totally different for my labor and delivery. My birth story is a positive birth story because I was able to birth at home, and that was my goal. I really wanted to be home. And although it was very hard and strenuous, this was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. The most strenuous thing I've ever done in my entire life. But it was positive because the outcome was what we wanted. You know, we were able to bring her earthside in the presence of our loved moms, our loved ones, which is our moms. We didn't have to go to the hospital. We were able to just be here, and it was sacred and amazing and scary at times. My goodness, it was scary. It was nothing like it's like nothing I've ever experienced before. Unlike anything I've ever experienced before. My body went through a crazy time, but I did it, and I'm so proud. So proud. Look at that. Yeah. Yes. So that's my birth story. There are so many other things that happened that I will have to like come back and backtrack to share if people are interested in hearing. But women, we have some amazing bodies. Our bodies do these magnificent, magical things. And I'm grateful to have been able to experience birth. Wow, I feel so strong and so capable after that. And wow. Oh, someone's making some poops. All right, if you have follow-up questions, let me know and I'll try to answer them.